The most startling scandal in the history of the love and hip-hop industry has just occurred. The streets are ablaze with lurid rumors that Kirk Frost is not the father of Rasheeda, despite the fact that she is pregnant. Hold on, because it gets even messier if you think that's the most crazy aspect. When Kirk learned, he reportedly lost all control and confronted Rasheeda in a heated, explosive altercation that escalated to violence, according to sources close to the pair. Rumors that Rasheeda's covert pregnancy was revealed by a leaked private medical report have gone viral on social media. Supporters are in complete shock. How could this occur? Who is the biological father? And why did Kirk supposedly lose his temper when the truth was revealed? Tensions between Kirk and Rasheeda had reportedly been simmering for weeks, according to witnesses, but no one anticipated this. The couple's marriage, which was already shattered by previous betrayals and infidelity, might have reached a breaking point. Furthermore, startling video has emerged that depicts Kirk in an enraged, uncontrollable state. What actually transpired between them? We're going to reveal all the juicy details of this shocking controversy, so stay tuned. Suddenly, there was an uproar. No one anticipated it. In the beginning, it was only a hazy rumor circulating online. However, it quickly became an uncontrollable fire that spread throughout social media, celebrity news channels, and gossip websites. Rasheeda was expecting a child. That was startling enough on its own. However, the second element of the report, that Kirk Frost was not the father, was what really blew the internet up. Fans initially didn't believe it. Kirk and Rasheeda had, after all, had years of ups and downs, breakups, makeups, scandals, and rumors of infidelity. Rasheeda, however, had always been by Kirk's side. It was nearly unthinkable that she would become pregnant by someone else. The evidence, however, began to come to light. Official-looking medical records that revealed Rasheeda was pregnant were released by an unnamed source. Worse, according to a second source, Kirk had already undergone a DNA test, and the findings verified that he was not the father. Twitter took off right away. One admirer tweeted, "There's absolutely no way Rasheeda did Kirk dirty like this. After all that Kirk endured for her. I don't even blame her if it's true." Another wrote. Kirk was in the dark the entire time. Hold up, who's the father? We need answers ASAP. He was unaware of the social media storm that was building while he was out performing errands. However, it was not long before his phone began to explode. Missed phone calls, text messages, alerts. His heart fell when he at last looked at his phone. They were all over the headlines. Kirk Frost isn't the father, but Rasheeda is pregnant. Who is Rasheeda's real baby daddy? Reality TV star involved in pregnancy scandal. According to sources, Kirk initially couldn't believe it. Hoping it was a misunderstanding or some cruel joke, he continued checking his phone. However, his anger increased as he read more. He is said to have mumbled, "Nah, this can't be real." However, something inside of him snapped when he discovered the DNA results that had been disclosed. According to witnesses, Kirk lost it. He is accused of throwing his phone across the room and hitting a wall with it. Locals claim to have witnessed Kirk walking back and forth, shaking his head, and muttering obscenities. "I must speak with her." "Now," he allegedly screamed. Kirk called Rasheeda right away. Once, twice, 3 times, no response. That simply made matters worse. Kirk said, "Oh, so now she don't want to pick up?" before snatching up his keys and leaving. His mind racing, he pushed through traffic and hurried home. His mind went over every situation that might possibly happen. Was it accurate? Had he been deceived by Rasheeda? Was this a convoluted setup or what? However, Kirk realized something was wrong as soon as he entered the room. As composed as ever, Rasheeda was scrolling through her phone while seated on the couch. Kirk said in a deadly silence, "You got something to tell me?" Rasheeda looked up just a little. She mumbled, not even trying to look astonished. "What are you talking about?" Kirk became agitated at that. "Rasheeda, don't play dumb me. You know damn well what I am talking about." Rasheeda let out a loud sigh and tossed her phone to the side. "Kirk, I don't have time for this." That response was incorrect. Her phone was on the couch when Kirk grabbed it and shattered it on the floor. "Do you have no time? Who the hell's baby is this? You have no time." According to witnesses, Kirk was totally insane. He had a hot face, trembling hands, and labored breathing. Rasheeda, though, she flinched just a little. At last, she whispered, "I'm pregnant." "That's all you need to know. I'm not the father either." Kirk let out a yell. Rasheeda looked him in the eyes and shrugged. That was it. Guess not. Kirk lost his temper. Magazines and candles flew as he kicked over the coffee table. He made a visible dent in the wall with his blow. "You're lying. This isn't true. After everything I did for you, you cheated on me?" Rasheeda shook her head and chuckled icily. "Kirk, are you sure you want to go there? Everything you did for me?" She spoke in a low, lethal voice. "Do you really want to pretend that you're the ideal husband, that you've never cheated on me or made me seem foolish in front of everyone?" With his hands squeezed so tightly that his knuckles became white, Kirk was furious. "That ain't the point, Rasheeda. That's exactly the point," she responded. Things were starting to become dangerous now. Kirk moved in closer, putting his face just inches away from Rasheeda's. "Identify the person," he snarled. "Now." Rasheeda, however, declined. She turned aside, picked up her handbag, and headed upstairs. "Oh, so you're just going to leave?" Kirk shouted as he followed her. Kirk sprang forward and grabbed her wrist, saying, "I don't owe you an explanation, Kirk. Until you tell me the truth, you won't be going anywhere." Rasheeda yanked her arm away and yelled, "Let go of me, Kirk." Just then, there was a huge crash that reverberated throughout the home. One of the chairs fell down. One of the lamps broke on the ground. Security was summoned at that point. The whole neighborhood was bustling by this point. Reporters were yelling, cameras blazing, and paparazzi were already outside. We heard screams. "Is Rasheeda okay? Kirk, did you really attack her?" Security personnel hurried in and separated the two. Kirk's face was contorted with anger, his hands were shaking, and he was breathing heavily. He whispered, "You better tell me the truth, Rasheeda," one final time. Rasheeda, however, merely grinned. "You'll find out soon enough." Then she abruptly left, leaving Kirk standing there, utterly broken. However, the drama was far from ended, because everything changed when a bizarre video appeared online a few hours later. Kirk's world fell apart the instant his phone screen appeared with leaked video of Rasheeda in a hotel room. His mind was racing in a million different directions, his breathing became shallow, and his hands tightened around his phone. What on earth is this? "I hope it will change," he mumbled under his breath, repeatedly playing the video. But no, it was there, as plain as day. Rasheeda. In that dark hotel room, sitting, acknowledging that the child wasn't his. The worst part then arrived. The instant when the nameless man, the baby's father, appeared briefly enough to give a glimpse of his face. And Kirk's stomach dropped. Kirk got a bad feeling that he recognized the man despite the grainy, low-quality video. However, he required verification, because everything was going to blow up if that was who he believed it to be. Kirk's head clouded with rage, so he grabbed his car keys off the counter and stormed out of the home. At first, his body was acting instinctively, and he wasn't even aware of where he was driving. Then his phone buzzed once more. A fresh alert. Rasheeda's leaked confession. Fuel VIDO. Kirk tapped the link, his knuckles turning white. The video went past the scene he had previously viewed this time. Rasheeda shook as she said, "I never meant for things to happen like this on the video." In the video, the man sighed deeply. Rasheeda whacked her face while her shoulders dropped with fatigue. "But does he know? Does Kirk have any idea?" she asked. "I'm not sure. I don't think he has any proof yet, but he's been acting strange recently, as if he suspects something." And then came the moment that broke Kirk's heart. In the footage, the unidentified man moved forward just enough for a portion of his face to be illuminated. And Kirk recognized the person instantly. His whole body became really cold, because Kirk never anticipated the man in that room. Someone too near home, and Kirk felt his hold on reality loosening at that same instant. His heart thumping wildly, he muttered, "Oh, hell no." He slammed the brakes, hammered the steering wheel until his knuckles ached, and veered the car onto a side street before he even realized what he was doing. He was unable to breathe, he was unable to think. It felt like an impending explosion in his chest. Because Kirk's whole life was a lie if the video was authentic and Rasheeda was carrying the man's child. Every instant and every sign he disregarded flashed across his thoughts. Rasheeda dismissed the calls in the middle of the night. The rapid mood swings, the covert looks. Sometimes she would claim to be going out with pals, but something didn't feel quite right. Kirk had also overlooked it. Nah, she wouldn't do me like that, he had justified to himself. However, she did. The entire world now knew before he did. Fury clouded his vision as he reached for his phone and dialed Rasheeda's number. On the first ring, she responded. "Kirk," she said softly, as if she had anticipated it. A void. His voice boomed across the phone. "Kirk? Me? What the hell is this? Who is he?" After a lengthy silence during which Kirk's heart raced in his ears, Rasheeda finally said, "Come home. We must speak." Kirk nearly crushed the phone in his hand. "Talke? Speak? Do you think I want to talk no?" "Kirk, just get home." She hung up after saying click, which only infuriated Kirk. Oh, hell no. He didn't waste any more time. Someone had leaked the news, and he put the car into motion and drove off towards their house, where paparazzi were waiting in the driveway, their cameras flashing frantically as he stepped out. And now the whole world was watching him fall apart. Ignoring the reporters, Kirk rushed through the front door and slammed it behind him. Rasheeda was waiting with her arms crossed in the living room, her face unreadable. "Tell me that video is fake," Kirk ordered in a low, menacing voice as he locked eyes with her, his chest thumping. Rasheeda's lips parted slightly, but she remained silent, and that was all the confirmation Kirk needed. His entire world fell apart. "You lied to me," he said in a betraying whisper, and Rasheeda finally looked up at him. "I didn't lie, Kirk," he said. "Simply put, I didn't tell you." With a sour chuckle, Kirk said, "You just didn't tell me. Consequently, I must discover the rest of the world." "It's not like that, Kirk," Rasheeda said, inhaling deeply as if she were preparing herself. "I intended to inform you. I simply yet waited for the baby to appear and a little like him." "Don't do that," Rasheeda said, flinching as her face flushed with annoyance. "Don't pretend that you've been a saint the entire time." "Oh my God, no, don't you dare try to fool me." "Kirk, hey, I'm not letting anything slip. I'm just saying, Rasheeda, who is he?" Silence. Rasheeda's eyes darted to the side like she was scared to say it out loud. And in that moment, Kirk knew. "It's him, isn't it?" Rasheeda didn't respond, but she didn't have to. Kirk swore, his whole body shaking with rage. "I swear to God, Rasheeda," she said, raising her chin at last and speaking steadily. "Kirk, I believe you should go." Kirk's mind was racing as he gazed at her. "Are you really going to sacrifice everything for him?" Rasheeda's hands clenched into fists as her jaw grew stiff. "I did it already." And after saying those words, Kirk realized that this was far from done. And Kirk was going to make sure of that. As he stood there, his hands locked into tight fists and his chest rising and falling quickly, Rasheeda's words replayed in his mind, each one piercing his heart more deeply than the last. "I already did," Kirk said. She had already thrown everything away, including their past, marriage, and everything they had created together. Kirk's vision became blurry with a mix of anger, betrayal, and astonishment. How did this happen? For whom? For another man? The atmosphere was tense, as if it would blow out at any moment. Kirk stepped forward, his voice dangerously low. "You better tell me right now who the hell he is. How did his entire life turn into a stupid soap opera overnight?" Rasheeda didn't want to say it because she knew that once Kirk learned the truth, things would quickly become ugly. Kirk felt his patience shatter. Rasheeda's jaw tightened and her eyes darted to the side. "Who is he?" I asked. The weight of their shared secrets made the walls of their once loving house feel like they were closing in on them both, strangling them. Then, the hush was broken by a voice behind them. "Kirk, I think you should relax." Because of that voice, that terrible voice, Kirk froze. His heart caught in his throat as he slowly turned around and saw the man who had ruined everything standing just in the doorway. Bold as hell, as if he had already replaced Kirk, as if he had the right to be in Kirk's home, and as if he belonged there. When Kirk's eyes finally met his face, chaos ensued. Kirk sprang forward, his anger erupting like a volcano. "UMOTHERF." Rasheeda leaped between them, pressing her hands as hard as she could into Kirk's chest. "Stop it, Kirk." "Quit?" Kirk, however, was seeing red, his whole body burning with rage, and his fists ready to swing, but he was not hearing any of that. The reason for this was that the man in front of him was one of his closest friends, someone he had trusted, someone he had never anticipated, and someone who had been in his life for years. A man who had spent so much time with his family, visited their home innumerable times, attended their wedding, and now Kirk, who was the father of Rasheeda's child, was having trouble breathing and felt as though the room was spinning and the floor had disappeared. How long? Kirk's voice was hoarse, full of pure raw pain. His so-called friend, the man who had betrayed him, lifted his chin, refusing to look away. A while. That was it. For a time. As if it didn't matter, as if this was a careless error. Kirk's hands trembled at his sides as he laughed bitterly and without humor. Wow, whoa. So you were having an affair with my wife all this time while I was out here calling you my brother and defending you. As if Kirk was being dramatic, his pal dared to sigh and say, Kirk, listen, don't. You dare not attempt to explain this. I swear to God that I'm going to. Enough now. Kirk was too preoccupied with remembering all the times he had trusted this man to pay much attention to Rasheeda's voice, which broke through the confusion. Kirk felt like he was going crazy because of all the times they had spent together. All the times Rasheeda had laughed at his jokes, smiled at him, and pretended that nothing was wrong, all of which were lies to his face. With a betrayed look on his face, he turned to Rasheeda and said, So this was the big secret, huh? You were skulking about with this person. Rasheeda's face contorted with remorse, but Kirk noticed something else in her eyes as well, defiance, as if she no longer felt humiliated. I'm done lying, Kirk, she said, as if she had already decided on her side. I've had enough of acting. You don't to get to LHHATL like the VIC time here, do you? Kirk's chest heaved, his entire body vibrating with anger. And that's when his so-called friend stepped forward. You need to leave, Kirk. That was it. The last straw was that, I have to leave? Do I have to go? This is my home, bureau. No longer quietness. Like a goods train, the weight of those words struck Kirk. What did you just say? Kirk, I'm filing for divorce, Rasheeda said, her eyes dropping as if she couldn't stand to face him in the eye. No, you're not serious, he said, feeling as though the walls were closing in on him and the air had been forced out of the space. Right now, you're not being serious. Rasheeda swallowed hard, blinking back tears. I am. Kirk, I'm done. Oh, you're finished? Are you done? After IVEQMPLE EGID everything FRU. After everything, we have experienced. Kirk realized that Rasheeda was truly choose him as her features stiffened. Selecting his alleged friend, deciding to set everything on fire, and Kirk felt as though he had been repeatedly stabbed in the back. He laughed bitterly and shook his head, saying, Rasheeda, you're going to regret this. You two are. With a calm voice, his alleged companion moved closer. With fiery eyes, Kirk turned to him and said, Just go, man. I hope I don't see you again, bro. Because if I rush Kirk could hardly hear Rasheeda's angry voice because at that very moment, all he could hear was the sound of his own heart breaking. His life was crumbling before him, and there was nothing he could do about it. One thing was certain, though, this was far from finished. Kirk stood still, his whole world falling apart in front of him. The room felt cramped and oppressive, and he felt the weight of treachery crushing down on his chest as Rasheeda's words replayed in his mind like an endless nightmare. Pregnant, but not with his kid. His rage was simmering beneath his skin like a ticking time bomb, and he could feel his pulse in his temples. Kirk, I'm filing for divorce. This is finished. Despite Rasheeda's uncanny composure, Kirk could sense the finality in her tone. They wouldn't just brush this off. This wasn't one of their typical arguments. You think you can just say that and walk away? Kirk's throat was constricted and his voice was unpolished. With an angry and disappointed look in his eyes, he stepped closer and said, Are you really going to throw everything away like that? With an ambiguous expression, Rasheeda exhaled, Kirk, everything was thrown away a long time ago. You simply failed to notice. Kirk began to say, That's bull. But Rasheeda interrupted, saying, No, it's not. Kirk, you succeeded. You shoved me away. I was broken by you. And you want to play the victim now that I've done something for you at last. Kirk wiped a hand across his face and laughed sorely. Rasheeda, this isn't about me acting like a helpless victim. You're running about and doing dirty work behind my back, and then you're trying to make it seem like I deserve it. His voice was growing irritated and incredulous. "You believe I orchestrated this?" With her own rage rising to the surface, Rasheeda retorted, "You think I wanted this? I forgave you for years, Kirk, looking the other way for years. I hoped you would change for years. However, you never did. What the heck? This was how you got even?" Kirk's fists trembled at his sides as his jaw tightened. "No, Kirk. This was how I chose myself," Rasheeda said, her eyes glistening, but she refused to back down. Quietness. There was a heavy, dense quiet from which none of them could break. And then, a knock on the door. Kirk's stomach fell as they both turned. Rasheeda remained motionless for a moment before taking a deep breath and approaching to answer the door. There he was, the tall man Kirk had never wanted in his home. Kirk became enraged. Rasheeda's unborn child's father was self-assured and unconcerned. "Why are you in here?" His voice was dangerously low, his entire body vibrating with rage. The man stepped inside without hesitation, his gaze locking onto Kirk's. "We need to discuss." "We have absolutely nothing to discuss." "Oh, I believe we do." "Kirk, I want you to understand something," the man said, crossing his arms and refusing to back down. "Rasheeda, she is no longer yours. And this infant? That's my kid." That was it. That was the moment Kirk snapped. In a flash, Kirk lunged at him, his fist colliding with the man's jaw, sending him stumbling back against the wall. "Kirk, stop." Kirk had had enough of hearing words when Rasheeda screamed and tried to pull him away. One punch, then another, then yet another. Kirk was furious and eager for blood, but the man tried to fight back. "You think you can just walk in my house? You think you can take what's mine?" Kirk yelled, slamming his fist into the man's face once more. Crash. The living room was in disarray after a lamp struck the floor and glass broke. "Kirk, enough." Rasheeda was not listening, even though his voice broke with panic. He had lost everything, and now he wanted someone else to experience the same suffering. The door suddenly swung open once more, and security rushed in, yelling, "Get off of me." Kirk thrashed against them, his rage still burning. The other man wiped blood from his lip, breathing heavy but smirking. "You done now?" His voice was arrogant and sarcastic. "I'm so glad they stopped me," Kirk yelled, still attempting to escape. "Nah," the man said with a laugh and a head shake. "I'm not fortunate. Kirk, it was you who lost. And in the depths, you are aware of it." Kirk's fists shook and his body stiffened, but he knew it was over. The remnants of Rasheeda's spirit were then shattered by his actions. She approached the man. She put her hand to his face. She made sure he was all right. Not Kirk. Not the man with whom she had spent years in marriage. Not the man with whom she had a family. Him. And Kirk had a feeling worse than rage at that precise time. Even worse than treachery. He had been replaced. Rasheeda turned to face him, something he couldn't quite place in her gaze. "You must leave, Kirk." Kirk blinked. "Pardon me." "You must go out." She spoke in a forceful but gentle tone. "Now this is my home." Kirk gave a halting laugh. "Are you truly doing this? Are you really going to eject me?" Rasheeda stated it after opening her mouth a little, as if she was hesitating. His fate was sealed by those remarks. "Kirk, it's already finished." Kirk's feet felt like lead as security began to bring him to the door. He made one final attempt to tell Rasheeda not to do this. She turned her head away. She remained silent. And nothing hurt more than that. The door shut behind him. Standing on the porch, Kirk gazed at the house that had once been his. He still had trembling hands. His thoughts continued to race. But he knew in his heart. It was done. Not only the battle. Not only the partnership. Everything. And Kirk Frost had actually lost for the first time in his life. Well, people, there you have it. The most significant controversy to ever affect Kirk and Rasheeda's relationship, and it's progressing. What just happened? Can you believe it? Drama on a whole new level. Kirk losing his mind, punching, and being evicted from his own home. What's the most absurd aspect? This is not the end of the narrative. I must now hear from you. How do you feel about this crazy circumstance? Do you think Kirk truly deserved another opportunity, or do you think Rasheeda made the right decision by moving on? Let's also discuss that altercation. Did Kirk have every right to lose his temper, or was he acting inappropriately? I'm sure you all have some thoughts on this, so please leave a remark now. And pay attention. You know what to do if you want to be informed of every startling development, every secret information, and every convoluted turn. To ensure you never miss the tea, click this subscribe button and enable all alerts. This isn't over, I promise, and you don't want to be the last to know what comes next. If you enjoy drama on the level of reality TV, hit the like button while you're here because let's face it, this is more outrageous than anything we've ever seen on television. Additionally, this controversy is too significant to keep to yourself, so remember to share this video with your friends. That's all for now, everyone, but keep your eyes peeled for the next part in this drama. It will happen very shortly. Until then, continue to watch, continue to comment, and, as always, continue to be messy.